Available everywhere.
Hello everyone and welcome back into the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. And for our fourth segment of today's show, we transition to the NFC to talk about the All-NFC playoff offense with a lot more talent and a lot more breakout stars, in my humble opinion, than the AFC. And I just feel like because of the volatility of the NFC playoff picture, it's a lot more fun discussing and analyzing this team. But ultimately, I feel like the NFC is going to become the platform where the most exciting stuff in the postseason happens. Because we know the AFC, the Chiefs are going to be the dominating story. But the NFC really led to a lot of unpredictability, even though the Philadelphia Eagles, who looked very much like the strongest team on that side of the bracket, merged. And they will show in this playoff offense because of the talent that is in this loaded NFC playoff picture year in, year out. And it's funny that we're going to be leading off with a rookie quarterback in terms of its analysis. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it with no surprise. Jaden Daniels at the QB1 position. Who would have thought that of all the quarterbacks in the NFC playoff picture, Jared Goff, looking to finally lead the Lions to the postseason in an advantageous position as the number one seed. Jalen Hurts, who, yes, all year long handed the ball off to Saquon, who we'll get to in a minute, but still could be a prolific passer on his day. Sam Darnold, the redemption story. Baker Mayfield, who was one of the hottest quarterbacks all year long, especially in the final weeks of the regular season. And then Jaden Daniels emerges. A guy who all year long was unflappable. You could not shake this man. And he proved it in the postseason. Even in that game, when they were boat raced by Philly, still played with the same poise and calm he had all season long, to the point where he led all quarterbacks this postseason, not just in the NFC, but the AFC as well, in pass yards and rush yards as well. 97.9 passer rating, 822 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception for this young man. Truly an incredible start to his playoff career. Hopefully many more years will come where he's in that position again, because ultimately he is going to be the face of the NFC and is already making a case to be the best quarterback in that conference, and proved it as such in his play throughout the NFC playoffs. Now let's talk about the man that transcends lists of this nature, Saquon Barkley. This was the obvious RB1, the only running back who could be on this team in this situation. I mean, come on. He really is the Eagles' offense, really transformed this team to the point where Kellen Moore now looks like a genius and is going to be taking on one of the toughest head coaching jobs in the league because of how he utilized Saquon. But really, I feel that his postseason performance is a little bit more understated than his regular season performance, if you can imagine that. I feel like his prowess comes from his ability to gain yards after contact. His physicality makes a difference. And when you combine it with that Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, so fantastic in run protection, so fantastic in terms of the guards pulling, I feel like he's someone that is just going to be undeniable in a system like that. 3 touchdowns of 60-plus yards in the postseason, most in NFC history. He has 422 rush yards and 5 rushing touchdowns this postseason as well. The sky's the limit for him. He could break in the Super Bowl Terrell Davis's single-season rushing record, including the postseason, because obviously he didn't get a chance to break Dickerson's regular season record. But ultimately, a truly remarkable running back season for Saquon Barkley, and the only choice for the running back role in the NFC playoff picture this year. And let's talk about the wide receiver, starting off with a guy who finally got to prove his status as an elite wide receiver on the game's biggest stage, Terry McLaurin. And I could not be happier for this guy. He got a chance to really prove with finally a consistent quarterback, that he is one of the wide receivers who is a force to be reckoned with in the league this year. Led the postseason in receiving touchdowns, second in receiving yards with 227, but really makes a big difference when you have a guy like Jaden Daniels throwing to you, but finally proving that he is better than a lot of receivers than we thought. It's just that he never had that consistent quarterback play to throw it to. And I feel like now, more than ever, Terry McLaurin's going to have more of an opportunity should Washington continue this rise to superstardom to really deliver on the biggest stages yet again. This year obviously wasn't his year. They just didn't have the pieces around him yet. But they are getting to the point where Terry McLaurin's now going to be included amongst the elite NFC wide receivers. And so this comes as no surprise to me, because all year long he's really shown that he can deliver for this Washington Commanders team, and might need more receiving help to not only alleviate some of the burn on Jaden Daniels, but also to get him more open and prove his prowess as a top receiver. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown, yes, very disappointing postseason for him and the Lions. Still had a very nice game, 137 receiving yards, fourth most in NFC, and averaged 17.1 yards per reception. It's a shame that they didn't get to their most lofty of goals, the Detroit Lions, but Amon-Ra still is a very special player. I know a lot of people don't necessarily view him as having one elite trait, but it doesn't matter, because he's one of the most exceptional route runners in the league and just gets open whenever Goff needs him to, and he's proved it all year long with another all-pro caliber season. So ultimately, these two wide receivers really standing out. One more so for being in a breakout position where he hasn't had an opportunity like this before with consistent QB play, being able to make it to the conference championship game, and the other not necessarily reaching his ultimate goals along with his team, but still sustaining the caliber of play needed to have success in this league as a wide receiver. And when I compare that to Nico Collins and Xavier Worthy, again, one guy having a breakout year in his rookie year and another really helping his team even in a dire situation. But I do feel like when I look at the NFC more so than the AFC, they are far superior in terms of not just how they're utilized, but how they play the game. Because I feel like AFC wide receivers are going to become more predicated on their vertical threat and getting downfield. I feel like these two guys are very savvy veteran receivers who know that it's not just all about speed and pace winning the day. They're more known for getting open, running the routes, high IQ football in key situations. And it's the reason why they perform at a high level in that game against each other. But ultimately, I feel like any wide receiver could have taken these roles, but these two are just the most potent in the postseason when it mattered for their teams, even though Amon-Ra did not find that much success as he wanted to this postseason. The tight end position, definitely not as powerful as Travis Kelce, but still a very underrated guy for the NFC holding it down. How about Dallas Goedert? Who would have thought that he would be one of the more valuable receivers in this postseason for Philadelphia? I mean, yes, you could see a lot more A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in that championship game performance, but it was still very run-heavy, and ultimately Jalen Hurts just took what the Commanders' defense gave him. But in the moments where Jalen Hurts did pass the football, Dallas Goedert became a very underrated target. And I actually think he's going to be a very big X factor, an unsung hero perhaps, in the Super Bowl as well, just because of his physicality at the position. I love how he profiles as the guy who exploits what you need to cover guys like Brown and Smith, and most importantly, how he complements the run game as well. Because if you have to worry about a guy like Saquon, look what you're going to have to worry about when Jalen Hurts is in rhythm and throwing it to a big physical tight end like Dallas Goedert. He makes a huge difference, especially in short yardage situations when the Eagles do choose to pass, because of how open he's able to get, how much space is created for him, and most importantly, how physical he can get in terms of after the catch. So even though he's not at the elite status of a Travis Kelce, he has still proved vital for the success of the Eagles in the passing game whenever they've needed it. And I do think he's going to be the ultimate security blanket for Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl should the Kansas City Chiefs force this team to pass, because he's highly capable of exploiting whatever you leave in terms of coverage against Brown and Smith and loading the box to stop Saquon. So while he's definitely not the sexiest option to tight end position for this NFC squad, I like him a lot. And overall, it rounds out a very intriguing NFC playoff offense here, because you have guys like Jaden Daniels, who's not a veteran in the slightest, leading the helm here. Then a guy like Saquon Barkley, who's finally got his big chance with Philly to have an opportunity in the postseason to lead a team to success. Then both Terry McLaurin and Amon-Ra St. Brown, savvy wide receivers who still kind of go underrated in terms of Terry McLaurin in the wide receiver landscape, and then a guy like Dallas Goedert at the tight end position, who really as well goes underrated just for the team he plays on, but still not in terms of importance. I really like the tenor of this NFC playoff offense, because it goes to show that even though the Eagles pretty much dominated this side of the bracket, there were still a lot of talented players breaking out in their own way, especially those like Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, who got to present themselves on the biggest stage. But let me know what you think about my analysis of the All-NFC playoff odds, because coming as we transition to the world of basketball, and while it's not necessarily the news you want to hear concerning, that trade that took place yesterday, it's still a preview of a game that could have ramifications coming off of that trade. Right back at a short break to talk about that game and what it means in the landscape of the NBA.